welcome back to the Back to Business podcast. Today, I am really excited. I have a special guest, Randy Najjar. He is the CEO and founder of Sapphire Luxury Homes located here in the Metro Detroit area. Randy, how we doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Sarah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, happy Wednesday. Finally got a sunny day here in Detroit.
Yeah,
Nothing
we could take a break from this weather, that's for sure.
I know it's been pretty brutal. So when the sun comes out, it's always a good day.
Yeah.
How's your week been going so far?
Been a busy week, but a good kind of busy. So far, so good.
Awesome, love it. I always say I'd rather be busy than bored. That's always a good thing, especially as a business owner, right?
That's right.
Uh, got to keep it busy over there. So are you sitting in your headquarters right now? Your main office? Is this where the magic happens?
It is. This is my office in our Bloomfield Hills office building, and we have a
Okay.
really cool space here where we have a design studio, a nice warehouse, a yard in the back. So really cool space.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so future or existing clients can come in and kind of see options for the houses that you're building for them.
Yeah, homes, the landscaping. We have all kinds of different samples and displays and different opportunities for them to get to know what they can do with their home.
Oh, very cool. Okay, before we get into all of that, because I
Yeah.
know that's really fun, and when people hear luxury, it's very exciting, and I can't wait to hear more about Sapphire Homes. But tell me a little bit about Randy. Where did you grow up? How did you get started? What created your love for the luxury home industry?
Yeah, so taking you way back, grew up in Madison Heights in a 1,000 square foot home with my mom and dad. My younger sister was 3 years younger than me, and then eventually we had a younger brother that's 15 years younger than me, so quite the age gap. But growing up, my dad's brother, my uncle, was a contractor, did a lot of things with construction. So as a young kid, used to walk around with a plastic tool belt around my hip and used to love anything to do with construction. And as I grew up, middle school and high school, summers and Saturdays were spent with my uncle doing things like helping him finish basements and install cabinetry, things of the sort. And then in sixth grade, I actually did an aptitude test where they kind of figured out what you loved and what you liked and what you could be good at. And architecture came up as the top of that list. So was intrigued by that, didn't know what that was, looked into it and found out it was about designing homes and designing buildings. And that was something, you know, with my love for art and my love for construction, kind of made sense that those two things went together. And then my parents were both in real estate. And in high school, I started working with them in a co-op program where I was helping them, after school, doing things like administrative tasks, and eventually got my real estate license when I was in college. And I went to Lawrence Tech, and I went for architecture. Actually, got my architectural degree from Lawrence Tech. Ended up getting my MBA from Oakland University, and as I was doing real estate while I was going to architecture school, I got to meet a builder, a home builder that kind of took me under his wing. And I was working with him more from the front end of the process. So, land acquisition, helping him with the sales of his homes. And then I started helping him with selections and eventually some architecture work. And I really loved that whole thought and idea of taking all the things that I love and the skills that I've learned between construction, architecture, and real estate and being able to utilize all of those skills in this space. And eventually in 2012, I had graduated college. I was a year out and I figured I think I could do this on my own. Um, I had a neighbor of mine at the time that had built a handful of houses, and I took an offer to him. I said, "Listen, I got a potential project I'm going to be taking on my own. I haven't done the construction side of the home A to Z on my own, but would love to work with you on this and kind of learn from you, show me the ropes, and we'll go 50-50 on the project." And he was like, "That sounds pretty good to me." And so we started that project. It was our first home under Sapphire, and we signed that deal in 2013. Uh, and I started it later that year. So it was October 2013. We broke ground on our first home uh, in Rochester Hills. And halfway through that process, I knew this is what I wanted to do. Fast forward 13 years now, almost 12 and some change. And we're currently a much bigger staff. We have about 40 people that work for Sapphire. We build about 10 to 15 homes a year. We have a full landscaping department as well, where we design and install the landscaping, and that kind of takes you from where I started to where we're at.
Wow, I love it. Thank you so much for taking us all the way back to young Randy, who was wearing a little tool belt around. That is
That's right.
adorable. And I have to imagine when you worked with your uncle that anyone who saw you on the job was just so impressed by this young kid coming out there, hustling from a young age, wanting to learn and be involved. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
for
that's really
sure.
cool. It sounds like real estate and home building is kind of in your blood with your parents having been in the real estate business. Like you were destined to wear these shoes and be where you are today, truly.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, but not without all of, the hustler mentality that you hear from a lot of entrepreneurs, like that interest in wanting to do things from a young age. And I feel like that's a common theme with when I talk to people. They're always starting out young, they're hungry, they're interested. Like you weren't out playing as a little kid. You were like, show me how to do this. I want to,
Yeah,
give me that hammer. Let me try. Let me see if I can put the nail in the wood and all of that stuff. So that's really cool.
I do remember days in high school. My friends were, hanging out or going to the pool or whatever on Saturdays, and I was in the office looking out the window, kind of wishing I was there, but
Yeah.
hustling and trying to learn and trying to make a little bit of money. And it was some sacrifices along the way, that's for sure.
For sure. And yeah, I feel like the road to being a business owner, there's no shortage of sacrifices that you have to make. But I feel like you were a big picture kind of guy. Like you weren't thinking, oh, the pool on Saturday will be so much fun. You were like, I'm laying the foundation for a good future. And to hear you say that on your first job, you knew that that's what you wanted to do is such a beautiful thing. So love to hear it. Love that you were able to share that. And shout out to your mentor and to your neighbor who kind of took a chance and started off this journey with you back in 2013. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. Sure, it brings back lots of fond memories.
It does.
Um, so most people see, the finished beautiful house project and they probably don't think about all the things that go into that, and how you get from, raw land to this beautiful big home. So can you walk us through how a luxury home project typically comes together from the beginning concept? You're sitting down with a couple, they're showing you what their dream home looks like to land acquisition and then completion.
Yeah, great question. A lot of builders do it a lot of different ways. Most of the time in the luxury space, people find their own piece of land and they hire an architect, they hire an interior designer, then they find a general contractor, a builder, they get a landscape designer, a landscape contractor, and they kind of are piecing these things together. With Sapphire, we do it quite differently. We're a one-stop shop. We have everything under one roof to help create a more seamless approach to the process. So we do everything from land acquisition, like you mentioned. We'll help the client find the right piece of property in the area that they're looking for with the type of size and amenities that they need. Oftentimes, we source our own properties that we then sell to the client. So land acquisition would kind of be the first part. Then it goes into the architectural phase. With my background in architecture, I'm heavily involved in that part of the process with the client. So we're learning more about what their needs and wants are, where they're at in their life currently, and where they think they're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, sometimes 20 years, depending on what the long term goal is for this home. So we'll design that home. We have a portfolio of plans that we can start from that if it makes sense for the client, we can take those and tailor those to meet their needs. Or we start from scratch, blank piece of paper, do something super fun and super custom. Our approach is very much tailored to the client and what their needs and wants are and how involved they want to be. They can. One thing that's cool with us, we always have about 15 homes under construction at any given time. So Saba, who's our sales director, can take the client and show them these different homes in different phases and different stages, and they can get a concept of what the floor plan layout is, what the finishes may be, so they can get a better understanding of how everything works together. From there, we go into the site design and landscape design. So that's one thing I think a lot of people miss out on is the fact that the landscaping, post COVID really has become so integral to design and the use of the home. And when I say landscaping, I'm not only talking about, flowers and bushes and trees, but patios and fire features and pools have become super prevalent, and pergolas and all the different outdoor amenities. Outdoor living has become so important to most of our clients, especially in this post-COVID era. So we really start that early on in the process to get that outdoor indoor flow and create that kind of seamless living experience. Then we go into the interior design process where we do everything in 3D. So all of the selections that we make get rendered and designed in a 3D model, and you're seeing photorealistic visuals of what this home is going to look like before it's ever built. So we spend a lot of time in that upfront planning phase, pre-construction, where we're making all the decisions, all the selections before we actually put a shovel in the ground. And a lot of clients give us a little bit of pushback, like, why do we have to make these decisions so early? Why do we have to commit to these? But ultimately, it's best for everyone when we have a true blueprint and a roadmap of exactly what we're going to be building, all the details. It provides for a much smoother process, less back and forth. We're not going, two steps forward, one step back, and we can build the home more quickly, more efficiently, and the client can really just enjoy that process rather than being concerned about, oh, what decisions do I have to make? How much more may I need to spend? And ultimately, it just becomes a great experience for the client in the end. And after it's all said and done, and they've kind of moved in and settled in, they always look back and say, we're so happy with how that whole process went. And it was just comforting and a simple, it's not easy because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made still, but it simplifies that process.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, bringing up the point of Sapphire being a one-stop shop rather than these homeowners or, these couples, families that are looking to build, having to go out to all these different people and coordinate everything. Like the fact that you can put a crew on site and you can go over all of this with them in the beginning has to be so, I know it's a lot up front, but so nice for them down the road. Again, big picture thinking, let's do all this work in the forefront, get it done, and then you can kind of sit back and watch as everything unfolds and becomes their vision, turning their vision into life. So,
Exactly.
yeah, no, it sounds great. I mean, gosh, picking every little finish in a house. I've thought about it before. My husband and I were looking to buy a house. We're like, maybe we should build something. And then we're like, wait, we have to pick every little thing that goes into the house. Maybe one day that would be, the forever home decision, but it's a
What's cool
lot.
with What's cool with our process, we have interior designers on staff. They're going to help the client. And most of our clients are entrepreneurs or physicians, or, they
Yeah.
have a family. They're busy people. So we've come up with a process where we get a really good sense of the client's general vision, design styles, and we curate most of those design selections. And we'll narrow it down to two or three choices per item that the client can make. So they're still very involved. It's still
Yeah.
their vision and design style, but they don't need to walk into a tile store and see 1,000 different tiles, and it's overwhelming. We'll
Yeah.
narrow that down to a few, and we'll kind of mix things around, pick and choose, and it becomes more fun and less daunting of a task.
For sure. Yeah, I can see being overwhelmed by variety. So that's really nice that you kind of narrow down their options. And I'm sure, 13 years in the business, you know how this all goes. I'm sure you've worked with every type of client and can really give them the best guidance possible when it comes to making those important decisions.
Yeah, we're the experts, and we build that trust with the client. And as long as you follow our system and our process, it all works out very well in the end.
For sure. So bottom line is trust in Randy and his crew and all will be well. You'll get your
Exactly.
dream home. I love it.
That's right.
So when you think about running Sapphire Luxury Homes, what parts of the business demand the most attention beyond design and construction?
Beyond design and construction, we focus heavily on land acquisition. So we're always trying to position ourselves in a good place where we have land opportunities for our clients. Oftentimes, so in the Metro Detroit area, as you may know, Sarah, there's not a ton of new developments going on where, we have 10 different subdivisions, each with 100 different lots that you can kind of pick and choose where you want to build your new home, especially in this luxury And most of our homes are in the $3 to $10 million range. So that being said, oftentimes we're doing tear down rebuilds in high profile communities. So sourcing good land is one of the bigger challenges that we face. So we spend some resources and time trying to allocate those types of land opportunities for future clients, right? We do that. That's outside of that, and then we're big on knowing our numbers. I would say that's another place where we spend a lot of time outside of design and build is the financial aspect of the company, knowing what our costs are on any given home, understanding our potential profit margins, where there may be some slippage. The timeline of any given project is important because time is money, as they say, and every day that goes by where progress isn't being had, that's opportunity lost. So looking at that very much under a microscope. We do biweekly meetings around that, monthly financial meetings. So spending a lot of time really understanding our costs, our profitability, and if we can control that better, we can pass those savings along to the client, be more profitable ourselves to, excuse me, to acquire more land or do more innovative things in the business that ultimately help the client as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy you brought up obviously two really good points. The land acquisition is interesting, and I'm sure in the Metro Detroit area, it is, there's so many builders, and I'm sure just sourcing that land and finding it and being the first people there is like so important. So it's interesting that you bring up the tear down process too, because if there's
Yeah,
not a piece of land that homeowners are able to get or wanting, then you can just tear something down and start all over, make something new
right.
on that
We
space.
do that all the time.
Yeah, yeah, but also the financial aspect of it, and I think that it's such a critical piece for business owners to really know what is your profit in the job. Are we making money? Do we need to, kind of refocus our energy somewhere else? Or, how is this really going to pan out for the rest of the year and for what I'm sure you have projections each year, what you want to hit and what you want to do with the business. So I think it's awesome that you're spending time and devoting resources to that space because I talk to business owners all the time, not just podcast wise, but in the Wing Lake sector, and it's
Right.
often just kind of glazed over. You're great at building houses, and you're great at that vision and all of that, and knowing how to delegate and do the financial stuff too is so important. So kudos to you, Randy.
Fortunately, yeah, fortunately in our business, in the home building business, there's a lot of, smaller mom and pop builders out there that build, a couple homes a year and their whole financial outlook is looking at their bank balance. If that
Yeah,
balance is good, they feel good. If it's not so good, then they're like, oh, we need to request a draw or hurry up. And that's a dangerous way to run your business. And
yep,
specifically in the homes that we build, they're larger homes, so they take a little bit of time. We're not only looking out 12 months, we have to look out a minimum of 24 months. When we sign a deal today on a project, I'm not delivering those keys for 18 to 24 months. So our projections have to be quite a ways away. So even when in land acquisition and things like that, we're trying to project 2 3 years plus down the line.
yeah, good points. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's going to take some time to get started on the build and have that finished product ready for the client so that it's everything that they want it to be. So 2 3 years out makes sense. Again, you've always been a big vision kind of guy.
Right.
It sounds
I would
like.
agree with
So
that.
yeah, we're looking at the big picture here. So
Sure.
have to look a couple years down the road. Um, so back to kind of the business aspect of things, what were the most important systems and processes or leadership decisions that you've made along the way that have allowed you to really scale the business and grow the way that you have while maintaining the quality that your customers expect and that you're holding yourself up to?
That's something that's ever evolving. We're always continuing to try to improve our systems, our personnel, um, and we put a lot of energy into that. I remember, back in 2013 when I first started that home, and I said, this is what I want to do. That next year, 2014, I signed up 9 projects on my own, and I was a one man band, and I knew I had to bring in some help to fulfill those projects. So I hired an administrative assistant, kind of a construction laborer, and I made my first big hire, which was a construction project manager. And at the time, I was, the offer I made to him was more than I was making personally, what I was
Oh,
taking home,
yeah. Yeah.
and it was a big, scary decision. Um, but bringing in the right people, creating the right hierarchy, um, making sure that you're setting up your staff for success. And we've learned through, trial and error. Post COVID, right after that, 2021 was an explosive year for us. We signed up, where we were typically doing, plus or minus 10 houses a year. We signed up 21 homes in
Oh,
2021. So we doubled our um, output. And I was basically just interviewing and hiring and trying to bring on staff. And unfortunately, our systems really weren't set up to handle that kind of workload. So we were trying to figure it out as we go. And as you know, prices were escalating like crazy everywhere, whether it was groceries in the store. I mean, lumber was in the news headlines every day of the week because it was going up 400%. And we were having a very challenging time trying to understand and control costs in real time. So, a painful and expensive learning lesson from then to really focus on growing a not growing for the sake of growth itself, but creating a steady and scalable business that is efficient and remains profitable, um, and making the best decisions at the time that you can. So we've invested heavily into our project management software, into our training process with our new hires, whether that's in design or construction. Um, and one of the biggest things that I've done recently, I brought in a new um, COO about a year and a half ago. So prior to that, I was kind of CEO and CEO, kind of managing and operating the business. I brought in Patrick about a year and a half ago, and he's been really important into or really integral in trying to systemize and processize everything. Excuse me, to help all the different departments in the business, whether that's design or landscape or construction or finance or purchasing, work more of an integrated approach and where we're not all in our own silos. So that's been really something that has improved dramatically over the last couple of years. Um, yeah, I would say that that's really it's the people and the processes. It always comes down to that. Last year, our big overarching goals were predictability and profitability, really trying to understand, the numbers, whether it's profitability in the home, our overall budgets and expenses or timelines of our projects. And this year, we've gone back into our kind of overarching goals: systemize and optimize, really just dial it in another notch and really get as efficient as we possibly can. So we spent a lot of time, effort, and energy into that space.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, everything that you've said, it sounds like it really comes down to the people, the team that you've assembled. I love, how you said back when you first started, you brought someone on, you're paying him more than you were paying yourself, but it sounds like it panned out and it worked for you. And it sounds like it was a necessary business decision at the time, which those are the tough calls you have to make, right? But to scale and to grow and it can't just be on Randy, It's
No,
it's about
no.
delegating and trusting in your people.
And trust me, Sarah, over the years, I've looked, I've reconsidered and reconsidered what is the best, where do we want to take Sapphire? What's the best version of Sapphire? Do we want to be building 20 or 50 or 100 homes a year? Do we want to build 2 or 3 homes a year? And, what's the sweet spot? Where do we want to be? Who do we want to be? And what's the best way to create orchestrate the structure and the accountability chart and all the different types of aspects of the business, and where we finally landed on where we're at right now, which is, you know, the best version that I believe that we can still have very intimate relationships with our clients, design cool houses, and be large enough where we can command the proper pricing from our trade partners, our suppliers, and have a good presence in the market. So finding that balance.
All about the balance. I love it. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you've done a really great job of it. And also I want to go back to 2021 when you doubled the
Yeah.
houses. That's truly incredible. I mean, it definitely speaks to the state of the country at that time when people were stuck in their homes and they're probably like, we
Yep.
need a better space. Like everything in
Exactly.
your home is driving you nuts. Let's build, let's do what we wanted to do. Um, and amazing that they reached out, they're like, Randy's our guy for this, and to double your business that year and be able to take that on. I'm sure it was kind of an oh shit moment, but you're like, we're
It
not going to turn
was.
this down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You just got to figure it out. Um, awesome. Well, thank you. I mean, you've had such great insights to all these aspects of the business and talking about kind of the luxury building process, which is wonderful. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners have too. But just as we come to the end here shortly, what's one lesson you've learned in this industry that you think every business owner, regardless of industry, would understand, or something that you would want them to kind of take away from this conversation?
One of the things that I've always um, put at the forefront of all the decision making that I've had, even prior to Sapphire, when I was doing real estate sales or whatever it may have been, um, reputation is everything. That's kind of above all. So in 2021, when we were building 21 homes, we had 26 homes under construction at one given time, and it was a lot. And trying to keep up with costs and understanding our profitability was extremely challenging. Um, and at the time, we were struggling. The cash flow was challenging. Production wasn't as efficient as we had wanted it to. But throughout all of that, even when we incurred additional costs that were unexpected because of rising, general rising public costs and stuff, we never went back to the client and said, "Hey, lumber went up 400%. We're not going to be able to, honor our price." We always kept our word, even when it meant a huge financial hit to our bottom line. Um, Also, sometimes things happen in the construction where we don't believe it's really our issue. The client moves in, they do something to the home, there's an issue or challenge, they come back to us and they're concerned or upset. You know what? We've taken the mantra, we're just going to handle it because we want the client to be happy. And we can do a great job from land acquisition through the sales process, design, construction, landscaping, turn the keys over and they're super happy. But then there's an issue after that, and that's the last thing they're going to remember. It's the last taste in their mouth. And we don't want that to be a negative thing. If anything, we want to take that as an opportunity to put our best foot forward and really take it to that next level and make them even more impressed because we're definitely a big word of mouth company. We don't spend a lot on advertising. So our reputation means everything to us. Making those tough decisions oftentimes isn't easy, especially when there's big financial implications, but trying to keep that top of mind that the decision I'm making for today and tomorrow is going to affect me for the next year or 5 or 10, and the overall reputation of myself and our company and the longevity of the business.
Absolutely. That so well said. And we're just going to figure it out. We're just, just going that extra mile for your customers. I'm sure has, everyone talks to each other. So every time you
Exactly.
go above and beyond for that end client, they're going to tell their friends, and I'm sure it's paid for itself time and time again. So that's a great mentality. And I can only imagine the wonderful things that your clients have to say about you and
Thank you.
your business. So
I appreciate it.
really, really impressive what you've built, Randy. And I so appreciate you taking some time to talk to me, share it with the listeners. I'm excited for people to get to hear about your story. If anyone wants to reach out to you or to Sapphire Homes, what's the best way to reach you?
Couple different ways. Our phone number is pretty easy, 248-930-9300. You can call our office and they'll direct you to the right person. Our website is sapphireluxuryhomes.com. We have a great gallery portfolio that you can check out some of our work, or you can email us uh, at sales@sapphireluxuryhomes.com. That's probably the best way to reach us.
Okay, awesome. We will put all of that in the show note captions. And it was so great to talk with you. Hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the sunshine.
You too. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate your time as well.
Thanks, Randy.
Take care.